Hello everybody and welcome back to another video for the day. We're going back into a subreddit that I haven't done since New Year's, I guess. Jesus, it's been a little while. So, you know, good old r/talesofneckbeard, because people seem to really like the storytime format videos. So I figured I'd bring it back a little bit. If a couple of them that I have bring out do pretty well, then maybe it would be something that would be good to bring back to the channel, because sometimes it's just good to record these and sometimes it's good for people just to read these, because it helps people pass the time. So you know what? If you want to see more videos like these and just be all around generally amazing, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what you had for breakfast or something. That engagement is absolutely astounding and I always appreciate anybody who does that. And if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. We're getting pretty close to that 70,000, so let's get to it. Okay, let's go. Our first story comes to us from username Glitch2298. I feel like I might have read another one of this person's stories in the past. I don't know. For some reason, the username feels familiar. Neckbeard gets banned from a local card shop. Greetings, Reddit, longtime lurker, first-time poster. Unsure if this fits here, but please let me know if there is an appropriate subreddit better suited for this story. Sorry in advance for format on mobile. Backstory. I, male, have been a longtime fan of the Japanese manga Yu-Gi-Oh! Since I was a kid. Since I was 5 and I'm 23 now. I had a deck in the original Duel Disk from the DM series, Duel Monsters, and I was a big fan of the show. Over time, I lost cards and eventually gave my Duel Disk to Goodwill. They are rare and very collectible now, and lost track of the series and did my own thing. In 2018, after I got my first paid job, I started to dig back into the TCG trading card game after finding a bunch of cards that an old high school classmate of mine gave me. I learned that there was a card shop that opened up in town where I worked, and I went and met the owners. It was a father and son shop, and they primarily support Magic the Gathering. They said they were trying to make a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament and are trying to find players. I said that I would be interested if they did form one, and they were happy to hear that. I'm actually just now realizing this as I'm recording this. This is the first one of the storytime format videos that I've actually done with my new Shure mic. I know people in the past have said, hey, you have a nice sounding voice, and I'm really hoping that it sounds pretty good with these kind of stories. It'd be really neat if I could record an audiobook. I stopped by time to time to buy cards and have the occasional conversation. One day, they told me that they made tournament dates. Back then, it was Fridays and Sundays, but the problem was I worked night shifts from 2:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., so it didn't work out. Still, I got a new position in the workplace in which I was able to go both days. This was the time I met the suspect of this story. Sorry for the long and boring introduction, onto the real story at hand. Names changed for obvious reasons, and the cast is as follows. Me, OP, Jerry, not the real name, but the neckbeard, and the store owner. I met Jerry on my third tournament on a Friday. We got along at first, but I then saw that he was truly like. The guy was a total jerk. At the time, I was playing just a mix of random cards, and I slowly started to make fairly decent decks. He would always play the same deck every single time we came. Whenever he'd win a round, he would gloat to his opponent, and when he loses, he would have a fit. There would be times where I would buy booster boxes of 24 packs ranging from 5 to 9 cards per pack, and sort out the high rarities, ultra rares, and secret rares, and the commons apart, and he would invite himself to pick through my piles and choose what he wanted to trade for. Honestly, as somebody who's gone to Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals in the past, I absolutely detest and hate people that do that. Like, in all seriousness, if you want to look through my stuff, feel free to ask, but that's the main thing. Frickin' ask. The way trading works is that we would trade for equal value of the card or cards. If I picked cards that have a value of $30, the person being traded with would pick cards that are up to or equal in value. This can be any number of cards as long as it equals what I picked out. When he would do that unexpectedly, it shocked me because I hadn't found the value of what I had pulled yet. There would even be times where he'd open the card packs with me when I didn't give him permission. Whenever I buy boxes and he does that, it makes my blood boil. There was one set I bought and he started opening packs and once said, "This box sucks, dude. Why did you even buy these?" It pissed me off. Coming from a guy that never played anything else, it's just insulting for me. At that point, I confronted him and said to him this: "Look, just stop. I bought these boxes, not you. I need time to look through what I got and then decide if I want to trade them or not." He took the hint and left me alone. Since then, he was still as toxic as ever. There was even a kid who would join us on Sundays now and then, and he would be mean to him. I played the kid before, and he was a good kid and didn't deserve that sort of treatment. Now, to the good part of the story, the part you're probably waiting for. On a Sunday tournament, there was just 6 of us playing at first. Sundays always had less people then. Jerry came in late to sign up. On Sundays, you had to sign up by 10 a.m. We all were just about to play when we heard this exchange. No, you can't have a winning buy. For context, during a tournament, if there is an odd number of people, someone is bound to not have an opponent. The person who isn't matched up with someone gets an automatic win, known as a buy. If you show up late, you get a losing buy. Come on, how about I buy one? No, you cannot. Those are the rules. Jerry got his OTS pack, a pack of 3 cards that you get upon entry, and open it. We can all hear him say this. F this place. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a wild guess and say TimTamTom here got pissy about his bad pulls. There was something he said to the owner which we didn't catch, but by how the owner reacted, we knew it wasn't good. They argued for a few minutes, and all we could do was shuffle our hands and just listen. I don't remember what they said, but I do remember that the owner was angry when he said this final piece. I don't ever want to see you in here again. Get out. Jerry left in a rage, and we just sat there quietly, looking at each other. The owner came over with some opened booster boxes that still had some packs in them. I am very sorry for what you guys had to witness, and for that, I apologize. As a token for understanding, you guys can choose up to 5 packs on the house. I insist. That's actually pretty cool, because that's like a $25 value. I picked my 5 packs and put them in my backpack until the round was over. On that day 4th, we never saw Jerry at the shop again. I'd never seen him at all since that was the only shop I had went to. I know there was several other places where he can still play at, but I was glad I didn't have to tell him to leave me alone anymore. Edit to add, I just remembered the other day a thing Jerry tried to do. Thought it was easier this way than to post it in the comments. Back when OTS 11 came out, refer to above for what an OTS pack is, basically the tournament promo pack for entry, I managed to pull an Ultimate Rare. Ultimate Rares now are fairly different than the earlier ones. The newer Ultimate Rares have the background pressed down and the monster lifted up, so it looked like the monster was just a sticker put on the card. It was kinda neat. The Ultimate Rare I pulled was Sky Striker Ace Kaina. I sleeved it and put it in a binder that I put all of the cards I wanted to sell in. One day, and this was before he got banned, Jerry just helped himself to my binders without asking and saw the Kaina in the slot. He took it out and slammed it in front of me and slammed his binder next to it. This was our exchange. I want that. Here are my trades. I'm sorry, Jerry, but that card is not for trade. It is for sale. I don't have any money on me, dude. Just pick what you want and we have a deal. I just put the card back in my binder and told him straight. I'm sorry, but you have nothing I want to trade for, and this card is for sale if you want to buy it off of me. Of course, he refused, and he was committed to getting that new card for me. Now, every tournament we attended together, he would just go, OP, give me that kinda. I would always decline. I did end up selling it on eBay a few weeks later, and to everyone who plays or used to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, yes, he always played Sky Strikers. You know, considering I've actually had to deal with people like this in person, I'm completely understanding this person's point of view of having to deal with annoying players, and most likely this person is also the same type of person, which is the reason why Konami actually has a policy where you can get disqualified if you smell bad, and I absolutely hate and absolutely love the fact that that policy is in place. I love it because it helps people get used to good hygiene, because apparently people think that they can just wake up, put on their most worn-out undershirt, show up to locals, and then top 8 and think that that's perfectly fine, but I also hate the fact that because that needed to be in place. And for anybody not well versed in any of the trading card game scenes, card prices can fluctuate much like stock market values. You can buy one card for $10 one week, and then a month later they change the ban list, and then that card could either become halved or almost tripled in price depending on that change. Like for example, I even used the card from the exact story that was just read. This is just price graph of the card itself and the actual price fluctuation over the year. And really, if I knew something wasn't really going to hold its value, then yeah, I would be inclined to get rid of it for actual cash, not other cards that can also then fluctuate in value. Our next story comes to us from username Mr. Rando423. How I stood up to the guy who touched me without my consent. Hi Reddit, I come with another story from my past. I've been considering posting this for a while, so I feel that it could do me some good to get this off of my chest. I have a feeling that someone here will say this is fake, especially since I'm a guy, but trust me, I wish it was fake. My memory on what exactly happened might be a bit fuzzy because at the time I was not living my best life, to put it lightly, so there are a lot of things I've probably blocked out of memory either because of trauma or regret. If you read the title, then it kinda goes without saying that this story has to do with SA, but there's a good bit of homophobia, the one small mention of racism, and a little bit of physical violence. Consider this your warning. If I remember correctly, this happened around 2015 when I was 14 years old and in the 8th grade. At the time, I'd often ride the bus home after school, and one of those trips was where I met this guy, who I will call Bill. I was quietly sitting in my seat, minding my own business, when I suddenly felt Bill's hand feeling against my chest from the seat behind me, moving it around like he was trying to fondle me. I was dead silent and did nothing, because even though I was uncomfortable and afraid, I didn't know what to do in a situation like this. After a few seconds of that, I got up on my knees and turned around to look at Bill. As for Bill's physical appearance, he didn't look like the stereotypical creeper neckbeard. In fact, he looked like a fairly ordinary guy around my age with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and no facial hair. What really creeped me out was the look on his face. When I made eye contact with Bill, he looked at me with a grin not unlike that of Bill Skarsgård, who you may recognize as the actor who played Pennywise in the 2017 It film. Geez, I like the movie, but I don't like that smile. "I love you," he said while I looked at him. I got scared and quickly turned around and got back in my seat, hoping he'd leave me alone if I just kept my mouth shut and pretended that it wasn't happening. He left me alone for maybe a minute or two before he put his hand on my chest again. I got up to look at him again, and this time he said, "My name is Bill." I sat down and continued to stay quiet, hoping that ignoring him would make him stop, and fearing that speaking up would only make it worse. That was a mistake. Eventually, he touched me again, but this time he put his hand on my hip like he was trying to touch my ass. Luckily, I was sitting next to another guy the whole time. I haven't really spoken to him before, but I did have classes with him, and he was nice enough to stand up for me once he noticed what was going on. He turned around to confront Bill. "Hey, leave OP alone," he said somewhat sternly. Bill asked him why, as if he had done nothing wrong, and he responded with, "Because you're making him uncomfortable." I don't remember what else happened after that, but it seems that he talked enough sense into Bill for him to keep his hands off me for the rest of the trip, and I wouldn't see him again for a while. If you happen to be reading this, I'd like to thank you for doing that. You're probably wondering, did you tell your parents about this? Yes, I did tell my mom and former stepdad, though I don't remember when I decided to tell them or how either of them reacted. I doubt that my stepdad took it seriously, because at the time, he'd often embarrass and humiliate me, either to make himself feel powerful, or just for blanks and giggles. For example, there was this one time he shook a skirt at me, demanding that I put it on, until I ran to my room, bawling my eyes out. Or those times he'd chase me around the house with a toy taser while laughing his butt off. Like I said, I wasn't living my best life at the time. I don't remember when it happened, but one day my mom sat me down in the living room to ask why I didn't like my stepdad. I'm not sure how it came up, but my mom told me that he had a talk with Bill at the principal's office about what happened on the school bus. I don't know the exact details, but I can imagine that he didn't pull any punches, because he was a proud bigot. He wouldn't outright say that he hated gay people, but he'd casually address me and my brother with homophobic slurs, and would often make jokes like, "Have you seen the clown who hides from gay people?" He was also the kind of person who would casually say N in everyday conversation like it was socially acceptable. I feel like paint a picture of the kind of person he is. Let's fast forward a bit to 2017 when I was a sophomore in high school. This is probably the most regretful period of my life, because I was probably a couple of steps away from becoming a full-blown neckbeard, but that's irrelevant. I had a visual arts class, and guess who was one of my classmates? That's right, Bill was back. As you can imagine, I refused to even look in his direction. Thankfully, he sat pretty far away from me, and he didn't talk to me at all during class. One day during lunch, I finished my food and got up to put my tray away. On my way there, however, Bill saw me and decided that he wanted to talk to me. He simply looked at me from his while, saying hi. For some reason, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Before I describe what happened next, I'd like to explain myself first, because I feel like someone will tell me that I had an overreaction. I probably did, but I didn't feel like I needed to explain myself. I wasn't bothered with this guy saying hi to me. I was upset that he decided to talk to me as if I wanted to be his friend, even though I haven't seen him since 8th grade, after he tried to grab my ass. I have a suspicion that he thought I'd just forget about the incident on the bus, and he just waited it out, and maybe give him a chance and accept his friendship, or maybe even became his boyfriend. I just looked at him for maybe a second or two before I broke my tray against the top of his head without saying a word. Granted, the tray was made of styrofoam, but I think it was in that moment he realized that I didn't like him at all. I went and threw the broken tray in the trash and got back to my seat, but on the way there, I went up to Bill's face and called him a homophobic slur. Now, I regret doing that, especially after I realized that I had a lot of gay friends. But on the other hand, I feel like it helped hammer in the point that I wouldn't forgive him for what he did to me. To my surprise, I didn't get in trouble for this. I've been told that Bill was an a-hole to teachers and other students, so maybe that's why. Or maybe it's because this was extremely out of character for me. I mean, I made more than a few jokes that went over the line between edgy and messed up, but still. I was probably the last person they'd expect to pick a fight with someone, since I often had kept to myself and rarely made physical contact with anyone. I think Bill switched classes after that because I stopped seeing him in visual arts, and I wouldn't see him again for another 2 years. He did try to make small talk with me a couple of times while he worked at the store next to my place of work. However, I think he lost that job because soon enough, I never saw him again. Thank you for reading. I have quite a few more stories to share about my past, especially ones involving my former stepdad, because I think he qualifies as a neckbeard or an incel because of his behavior. But for now, I'll leave you this quote. There's nothing more cool than being hugged by someone you like, but if someone tries to touch you in a place or in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's no good. Yeah, it really does suck that humans have been alive for so many years and still people don't understand that you can't just go up and grab somebody. There's absolutely nothing okay about that whatsoever, and there's a common sense thing that people really seem to be lacking when they do that, thinking that it's okay. And I don't care who you do it to. It's not okay whatsoever. It doesn't matter if it's a person, a friend, if somebody you've known for years, or even just somebody that's a retail employee, because I know for a fact myself and countless coworkers of mine have all had stories where people think that, oh yeah, just go up and grab their shoulder, that'll get their attention. No, please, bottom line, do not touch anybody if they are not wanting to be touched. Do not do that. You can talk to us, but do not physical contact. Know that. Our last story comes to us from username SilverBiscotti30. Neckbeard Stalker. When I started college in 2011, I formed a solid friendship group and threw myself into the social life. One guy in my block who always showed up to parties but never spoke much to anyone was the classic neckbeard. Overweight, anime fan, lacking in social skills, combined with awkward attempts to be overconfident. He also never washed, wore stained gray clothes that he never changed, had long, lank, greasy hair, and was surrounded by a cloud of BO. It would enter the room before he did. Sorry if this description sounds unnecessarily mean. I wouldn't normally judge people for these things in themselves, but combined with his behavior since, it is frankly warranted. With regret in hindsight, I made the mistake of chatting with him at one of these parties, with the aim of being friendly and helping him get more integrated into the group. From that moment, a switch flipped in him, and he began obsessively stalking me, which would go on for the rest of the freshman year. He would try to isolate me at social events, talking to me for hours and taking none of my cues that I just wanted to bring it to a close. If I tried to lose him, he would find me. If I spent time with my actual friends, he would follow and force his way into the conversation, following me around like a wasp on a mission. If he saw me in public, he would give me this 1,000-yard unblinking stare, even from a couple 100 meters away, and would come over. It got to the point that I felt I had some kind of tracker on me, because wherever I was, he would appear, even when leaving the campus library at 3 a.m. More than once at night, I looked through my spy hole in the door to the hall outside to see him stood there, staring intensely at my door. Obviously, this was seriously creepy behavior. I felt hunted, I was frightened and on alert all the time, and I started to avoid going out of my room. I also started going to my folks a lot just so I could get out of town. My friends were worried about me, and a couple of them confronted him about his behavior and asked him to leave me alone. this did not go down well. His obsession turned to rage. Thankfully, he kept more of a distance, but he would still hang out in places he knew I would be, staring at me now with intense hatred. He started telling everyone that I was his girlfriend and had dumped him in a horribly cruel way. It made me question myself that a few people actually believed him. This continued into our sophomore year, when he got close to one of my housemates and started turning up unannounced at our place. This friend believed the stories he was telling and thought that I was being unfair in asking him not to bring this guy around to our house. He ended up stealing my mail, including a new bank card. I had no evidence that it was him, but I had so much stuff go missing, and I knew he was doing this. I also once found him in my bedroom. That was the last straw, and my roommate finally accepted that this guy had been lying. When I moved away, the in-person stuff stopped, but he started cyberstalking me, trying daily to hack any of my accounts that he could find. This continued, though to a lesser extent, for a period of 3 years, but since then, everything seemed to die down, and I thought it was over. I recently found his blog, where he writes fantasy stories about our relationship and calls me the love of his life. More than 10 years later, I feel sorry about him, but am very disturbed by this. Yeah, anybody that thinks that you're their significant other just because you've been in proximity with them a decent amount of times, that's very much a huge red flag to basically anybody with common sense. And the constantly trying to hack in and try to log in stuff, and you most likely getting the login attempt notifications, is stuff like that is the reason I have two-factor authentication on a whole lot of my stuff. And it's something I very much recommend to everybody I can. It's just the simple authentication device, the little one where it generates codes every minute. I really do hope that things get better for you, because stuff like this is just outright weird, and it has that weird chill in your spine kind of creepy feeling. But with that is going to have to be it with the video. I decided to try to make this one a little extra long because I figured if we're bringing back something that I haven't done in a while, it might be something to help with the algorithm, plus also gives you a good experience as to what exactly it is that you might be missing out on the channel. So if you would like to, you can hit the like button, leave a comment down below, because that engagement is absolutely appreciated. And if you haven't already, I do have a playlist of these storytime format videos. Be sure to check it out. I have everything organized on the channel, so I hope to see you in a future video. With that, I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.